Thanks for opening up the end of your conference to actually talk, and we're going to do a presentation on a self-directed learning award that Memorial set up about 5 years ago. So without further ado, I'm pleased to be here for this celebration this afternoon. We're joined by many family and friends of our award recipient, instructors, students, committee members, and members of the university community. And I think it's absolutely amazing that you've all taken the time to be here. It's a very exciting time. You're going to see why it's so exciting in a few minutes. The creation of this student award is in itself an example of self-directed learning. It started a number of years ago when the teaching and learning framework was being reviewed at Memorial. And a student at the time, her name was Cassie Humber, an undergrad student, said, well, we really should be celebrating those self-directed learning students that participate in self-directed learning enterprises. And an instructor at the time, Sebastian Dupre, said, yeah, that's a really good idea. Let's take that to the next level. Let's bring it to the Teaching and Learning Framework Committee, and let's see if we can create an award. So really what the impetus for this award was a student who was doing self-directed learning, and I think that's an absolutely brilliant, brilliant way of moving forward and recognizing students. Recognizing the instructor's keen interest in this award, which Sebastian had, what allowed us to be here today, and we've had this is the 5th year that we've had this, and it grows in popularity, it grows in interest, and certainly as chair of the awards committee, it grows. It's probably one of my favorite days of the year now because we get a chance to look at the award recipients, we get a look at all the stuff that's happening really under the surface in self-directed learning here at Memorial. So it gets us a chance to sit back, to reflect, and to learn what's happening. The applications for this award every year, each and every one of them, we truly believe, and there's a number of the award selection committee here today, and every year we struggle with all of the people because each of the applicants are award winners in themselves. It really does your heart good to look at, and it's always a comment, and I posted this a little while ago on Twitter. You know, as educators, we're often told that we're so privileged because we get a chance to see the future. We get a chance to influence the future. And by process of working with our students, we get a chance to influence the world. And I think when you look at these applicants every year, we truly feel powerful and empowered as to what the amazing work that's occurring here on our campus that often goes unrecognized. And that's why we're here today, to recognize those students. So let me just give you a little profile of some of the other applicants that were nominated this year. An English major with his sights set on a career in sound recording, who has written and recorded an album of original music, explored life as a professional musician, and made several important connections with faculty and staff in the School of Music to further this ambition. A student of the Bachelor of Recreation and Therapeutic Recreation program who with creative thinking, careful planning, and very few resources, but a lot of enthusiasm, revived and strengthened the Nature Area program at a not-for-profit camp for youth. A nursing student whose fundraising efforts and desire to gain practical nursing experience working with vulnerable populations secured her a volunteer position with MUN Global Brigades in Honduras. A psychology student who managed to combine his love of music with his fascination for how the mind works in a unique project that examines how musicians and non-musicians represent tonal information in short-term memory. A student of anthropology who's committed to supporting and empowering people in their birth experiences and showed initiative, resourcefulness, and hard work in becoming a certified doula, in volunteering with the College of Midwives of Newfoundland and Labrador, and in establishing a local chapter of the Positive Birth Movement Group. And a business student who went beyond the requirements of a term project and pitched into the automotive industry and worked with the automotive industry his idea for a device that would allow people with epilepsy to safely operate a vehicle. These are our undergraduate students, and these were some of the nominees for the award this year. All applicants demonstrated hard work, leadership, commitment, creativity, and perseverance, and the committee was incredibly inspired, as I mentioned, by each and every one of them. And each and every one of them are award winners in their own right. I'd like to take just a moment to recognize the contributions of the award selection committee members, Ms. Jennifer Brown, Associate Director of Student Life, Dr. Alyssa Craig, Associate Dean, Curriculum and Programs, Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, Dr. Jana Rosales, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Engineering and Applied Sciences, Mr. Brad Greeley, Student Rep, and Ms. Madeline Ashe, Student Rep. So welcome to the 2 student reps and all the committee members who are dispersed throughout. They sometimes like to remain anonymous, but I've just outed them all. I'd also like to pay special thanks to Allison McNeil from CITL, who I've told that if she steps down as a support to this committee, I'm no longer chairing it, because it runs so well, it runs so effortlessly that she does such an amazing organizational administrative job. So Allison, thank you so much for your support. Without further ado, I now invite my colleague, Dr. Donna Hardy-Cox, newly minted, I might add, Associate Vice President Academic Students, to the podium to present the Memorial University Award for Outstanding Self-Directed Learning to this year's recipient. Welcome, Donna. And I joked coming in whether I should curtsy or bow from the hip. So I'm going to curtsy, Donna, so the podium's yours.
Thank you, Rob. Wow, what amazing profiles of the students who are nominated for this award. Every day I, in this new job, get an opportunity to have that lens on this campus, and I'm just blown away. So another wonderful example this afternoon of the tremendous students and the kinds of work they're doing around our campus. Thank you very much, Rob. Good afternoon, everybody. Many of you I've seen for the last 2 days as we've been taking part in this fabulous teaching and learning conference. I certainly have learned lots and been delighted to be part of this, and congratulate you, Gavin, on quite a wonderful learning event for the campus. I'm particularly delighted to be part of the celebration of this student achievement this afternoon. Dr. Noreen Goffman, the Provost and Vice President Academic, couldn't be with us this afternoon due to a previously scheduled commitment, but absolutely wanted to make sure I sent along best wishes to the recipient this afternoon. It is my pleasure to present the Memorial University Award for Self-Directed Learning to Miss Michaela Barnes, a student in the Joint Diploma of Technology, Bachelor of Technology, Ocean Mapping program at the Marine Institute. Michaela, would you please join me at the podium? You might want to. So I get to tell you a little bit about what the review committee reviewed and why Michaela is with us today. So being a professor, I have to start with a question, and I think this is Michaela's question. Which is deeper, Gander Lake or Grand Lake? I think she's going to answer that for us in a little bit. While the answer to that question may not be of interest to most, it was to Michaela, a student of the joint program in technology and the Bachelor of Technology in Ocean Mapping. Finding the answer set Michaela on a self-directed learning journey, which she affirmed her love of water, enthusiasm for ocean technology, and scientific curiosity that was developed as a child. It all started the summer following the first year of studies at the Marine Institute. A friend presented Michaela with data collected at Grand Lake, which put into question the popular belief that Gander Lake, at 287 meters, was the deepest lake in Newfoundland. Curious, the pair researched the history of Grand Lake, and from the documents of an early 1900s mining operation on Glover Island in Grand Lake, they found a recorded depth of 420 meters. And so the goal was set, a very important thing to get yourself on the path to self-directed learning. Michaela and a friend gathered a team of investigators to conduct a survey of Grand Lake and to prove without a doubt that Grand Lake was the deepest lake in Newfoundland. The team conducted several surveys of Grand Lake, which answered the question about the deepest lake and even revealed some surprises. Without divulging too much, what Michaela and the team found, Michaela will tell you all about that in just a few minutes. I do want to highlight the elements of this endeavor that illustrated her self-directedness in this learning. First, it was Michaela's curiosity and enthusiasm for ocean mapping that prompted this project. It was not a requirement of the academic program, but Michaela was keen to take advantage of an opportunity to get on the water and gain practical mapping experience. And we heard that from a student panel yesterday, Michaela, how important it was to take what they were learning in the class and to get out there and to actually have that practical experience. Significant time was spent conducting archival research on Grand Lake, designing, conducting surveys, analyzing the data, not to mention the time it took to travel to and from Grand Lake on Newfoundland's beautiful west coast. All this work was conducted in Michaela's spare time, holidays, and weekends. Now that's dedication for a student, for sure. Before the first survey was conducted, Michaela also took the initiative to become a licensed pleasure craft operator, to operate a 16-foot aluminum boat that will become their survey vessel. Through the multi-beam echo sounders, though the multi-beam echo sounders are commonly used in deep water surveying today, the team had to access only a single beam echo sounder. Michaela likened this to painting with a pen versus a wide paintbrush. Nevertheless, once the team examined the landscape of Grand Lake and identified the area likely to be of greatest depth, Michaela took on the task of planning survey lines for maximum coverage. Cold weather during the fall and winter required the team to suspend their surveys till spring. So Michaela and her teammates took this time to conduct more research on Grand Lake. Knowing that they would return to the lake in the spring and with a new plan based on exciting information from the research, Michaela sought advice and resources from the head of the School of Ocean Technology, who offered the team a combination single beam and side scan sonar. And I'm thinking that's a really important piece of equipment. This single beam side scan sonar captures high resolution images of the seafloor, there it is, but warned that the side scan sonar may be broken. So while learning about the side scan in class, Michaela's spare time was spent troubleshooting and testing an actual side scan sonar. Michaela discovered the program was the instrument settings and was able to restore it to working power. Where's the cape? The team did return to the lake twice more to conduct surveys which Michaela designed to focus on the coastline of 12 meters in depth or shallower. Creating the survey plans was reported as one of the most valuable aspects of this undertaking, as it forced her to consider and bring together all aspects of the survey and helped her to learn, very, very important, how to work collaboratively with team members. And we heard all about that from some of the student panel as well. How important it is to work collaboratively with all your team members. So in Michaela's words, I set out with a goal to improve my knowledge and to gain experience in surveying, but I had no idea how many skills, both tangible and intangible, I would gain. Paul Brett, the head of the School of Ocean Technology, in his letter of support, wrote that this project was an academic endeavor that has propelled Michaela above and beyond the undergraduate program at the Marine Institute. The team presented their findings at the School of Ocean Technology at the School of Ocean Technology and to the public at the Johnson Geo Center. In addition, Michaela was the lead author of an article on their findings, Sunken History of Grand Lake, published in a 2017 edition of the Journal of Ocean Technology. That's pretty impressive for an undergraduate student. Their goal was to increase public awareness about the importance of conservation in our waters. For curiosity, enthusiasm, initiative, persistence, and hard work, and not to mention the gains in personal and professional growth and contribution to our understanding of the history of Grand Lake, Michaela Barnes is a most deserving recipient of the 2019 Memorial University Award for Outstanding Self-Directed Learning. Wouldn't you agree? So it's my pleasure to present this certificate to Michaela in recognition of outstanding achievement and creativity in self-directed learning by an undergraduate student as attested by faculty, staff, and peers.
Thank you.
This is your one with your picture.
Okay.
Make sure you got your pictures. This is an important time. We can wait here, can't we?
Yeah, yeah.
In addition to the certificate, which is now yours, we also have, thank you, we also have a little cash award, I believe, for you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And now I invite you to address our gathering here this afternoon.
Great. Thank you, everybody, so much for this incredible honor. Thank you to my family and friends for coming, and everybody from the Marine Institute surprised me by coming today. And I was asked to give a little presentation about my application and more generally my journey through self-directed learning. And to start that journey, I think we kind of have to go back to the beginning. And a lot of this you kind of heard before, but I'll describe in a little bit more detail. I grew up in Clarenville, Newfoundland, and like most places in Newfoundland, we were surrounded by water everywhere. So I grew up playing on the beach, running around in the water, kicking my feet, and I was always just fascinated, I guess, by the ocean and wanting to look out and see nothing but water. So that's kind of where my passion for the ocean began. In middle school, I joined my school's ROV team, which is underwater robotics team. ROV stands for remotely operated vehicles. We use them to explore the sea floor. So this is kind of where I started getting into the technology side, where I started exploring combining oceans with technology to get ocean technology. So I continued with this team throughout middle school. I continued to grow my passion for robotics. This is a bit of a brag, actually, I think, more than anything. I got to travel to international competitions through this ROV team. This was my team in 2014 when I was in the 11th grade. We pulled a couple awards, a couple titles. It was a lot of fun, and it was just, it's one of those things you can't describe, you know? It was so much fun. I loved working with my friends and getting to work with this technology, and I knew that it was something that I wanted to pursue for, as a career. I had a lot of push from my teachers and my parents as well to pursue my passion, so this is kind of where it started. So through these competitions, I was going to the Marine Institute because that's where the local competition is. So I started meeting people at the Marine Institute, learning about the programs there, and I ended up joining the ocean mapping program when I finished high school. In the ocean mapping program, we kind of learn how to use acoustics to collect data about the ocean. So whether it's the water column or the sea floor or even the subsoil. So a couple, we use technology such as multi-beams, which was kind of described earlier. It uses acoustics on a wide swath, we call it, in a really wide beam, and just goes across the floor and collects depth data. And that allows us to create like a topographic map like you can see here. So this is actually off the coast of Newfoundland, which I took from the Marine Institute. Thank you. And you can see the reds are the shallower depths and the blues are deeper. So what's was so interesting to me was that looking at these pictures, like there's a whole world under the water that we never get to see, just like we see, hills and caverns on land. These all exist underwater as well, and we just never get to see them. So that's kind of why I joined the ocean mapping program. I wanted to pursue ocean technology. I was extremely interested in exploration, and I love just, I guess, traveling and getting to learn about new things. So, and also joining the ocean mapping program meant I got to go to the Marine Institute, which is a school that I loved, and the school that hosted the university's ROV team. So I got to continue with the ROV thing, now going on 9 years in the ROV program. So I got to join the university team in my first year. And throughout the first year, I was really excited. My first day, couldn't wait to learn about the oceans, learn about ocean mapping. Wanted to get out there first day and find a shipwreck or something. I don't know what I expected. But like most courses, your first year is your general year. So you're doing math and chemistry and science and that kind of stuff. So the first 2 semesters, we did a little bit of ocean mapping, but a lot of the base knowledge that we needed for that. So at the Marine Institute, we have what we call technical sessions. So after the first 2 semesters are over, it's 6 weeks at the end of the year. That's just all hands-on learning. So we get to go do labs. We actually get to go out onto the water in vessels using this equipment that we'd heard about before, and now we're actually getting to apply it practically. So this is finally my moment, right? I'm going to find my shipwreck. This is it. I'm going to become an ocean mapper. Not quite. We got to spend a couple weeks out on the water. This is one of our boats that we have. We survey out of Holyrood. And this was my first day out in tech session. And we had so much fun. We're out on the boat. We're learning how to install all this equipment, and we run it. And that was it. we processed a little bit of the data, but we were still first-year students. You're learning, you're growing, so you're not ready to produce the world's greatest map yet, and you're not going to find the greatest discovery. So it wasn't that I was disappointed, but I was eager. It was like a taste of getting out there, and it was almost validation that, okay, yes, this is what I wanted to do. All the doubts that I was having, coming to this program, like, what do I want to do with my life? What is my passion? This was kind of like, a continuance of, yeah, okay, this is great. Verification that I love being out on the water and I love looking at the sea floor. But then tech session ended. And I had to wait another year until I'd get back out to another tech session. Even wait until September seemed like a long time to get back to classes. So this is where my ROV experience kind of came back in handy, because not only did I get to build ROVs, but I got to meet a group of like-minded people. So I don't know why I even put this picture here, because they're all actually sitting right there. You can see them all. I invited them today. But I got to meet a lot of people who also loved ocean technology. And once we had finished the ROV project, we were all kind of, well, what are we going to do now? We need an excuse to hang out with each other, and we also would like to be able to apply this ocean technology. So we have here is Nick, Anthony, and Weimar, and Calvin, who was taking the picture. Thank you, Calvin. So Anthony here grew up on the West Coast, and he has a cabin out there and had done some mapping out there. This is a friend that you heard about earlier, and he had found some data that shown that Grand Lake might actually be deeper than Gander Lake, which was previously believed to be the deepest lake in Newfoundland. So being eager, also maybe a little bit petty and just wanting to prove that we could find the deepest lake in Newfoundland, we set out, and we decided to go out with just a fish finder. If anybody spends time like recreational boating, like a fish finder is actually just like a single beam. So instead of having that great wide swath of acoustic beams, we just have one, just one little track. So you're collecting like one depth data, one depth point at a time. But that's what we had. So we set out. We kind of looked at, this is Grand Lake. I'm sure some people might be familiar with it. It's the largest by area in Newfoundland, or the largest in Newfoundland. The deepest bits are down here by Glover Island, towards the south. And we had suspected that that bit might be deeper than up here, because when you look around you, you have these great, huge mountains that are on either side. So you suspect that if there's great mountains and hills on the side of you, that they might continue downwards. So that's where we set our sights on. We headed out there, I think our first time was in September. After talking about it all summer, we did it, we got out there, and we were so excited. We're like, okay, everybody watch the sonar, because like, you never know when it might, go over 287, and very quickly we found 300. Very, very quickly. We weren't out there for very long. You can see we were just climbing up to 281, and you can see our excitement as the numbers are climbing up. And very quickly we found 300, and we were like, oh my gosh, wow, we did it! Woo, celebrate, yeah! And we kept going, and then it was 320, 330, 340, and the numbers kept climbing up and up until eventually we found, I think our deepest was 420 meters on that trip. Which is significantly deeper than Gander Lake, almost twice as much, almost, not quite. So this is an extremely deep lake, and it was kind of unknown other than surveys that were done in the 1900s that showed that maybe there's a depth of around 420 meters. So we were able to verify that old data with just our single beam. And while, you might question the accuracy of just a single beam, we do know that it's deeper than Gander Lake. So, but I'm afraid to give you an exact number, because I'd want to go out there with a multi-beam to confirm the exact deepest depth. So that's still a mystery that we don't know about Grand Lake. One day, maybe we'll get a multi-beam, maybe. So that was our first summer out there. And then the winter comes. You can't go out on Grand Lake without, freezing. So we were kind of looking at other projects. We were, doing another robotics project at the time, but still looking at the mapping stuff. And so one of our team members found some data about, just looking at archival records of Grand Lake. And in the 1920s, this dam was built up on the northern end. And when they built the dam, they flooded the entire lake by 11 to 12 meters. So that was really interesting, because there was a whole shoreline that used to be there, less than 100 years ago, that is now underwater. So we thought that it would be kind of cool to go out and map that. So just see what's down there and, just see what used to be the shoreline. We kind of set out, this is where I got to do planning survey lines and things like that. All these things that I had no idea how applicable they would be to my career at the time, because I was still just starting out. But little did I know I was, doing things that I'll now be doing as a professional for the rest of my life. So we set out into to map the lower areas. And while we were mapping, just one random kind of spot, we were seeing all these anomalies, and it was like, it would get really shallow, and then really deep, and then really shallow, and then really deep. And we're like, that is so weird. And I was like, maybe it's just something wrong with the sonar. Like, it might just be on the fritz. It might just be picking up, something in the water. But then we went back home, and someone found a map that showed a rail line bridge that used to go across Junction Brook, which got flooded when they built the dam. So we suspected, we must have found that bridge. Like, that's crazy. Like, there used to be a bridge there, and they just flooded it, and we just happened to find it. So we went to the head of my school, Paul, and we told him about this, and we asked for some help and advice, and he gave us a side scan sonar. What I've been telling you about so far has been detecting the depth of the water, a side scan sonar is used to image the seafloor, so you can get really high resolution pictures of the seafloor. So that would help because we'd be able to, take a picture of what's there. So we went back with our side scan, and this is what we found. So for those of you who don't understand side scan, sometimes I wonder if I still do. It's kind of weird to look at, but what you're seeing in the middle, that's our vessel track, and anything that's on either, we're kind of looking at both sides. So say if I'm the vessel, this is both sides. And what you see kind of sticking up in the black, that would be what's sticking up in the water column. So a friend of mine said it's kind of like you're standing here at the edge of the bank and you're looking, and these are kind of standing up straight. So all those pegs in the middle. So I don't know if you guys counted before, but there was 1, 2, 3, 4 pegs there, and a lot, a lot more here. And to be honest, at first we didn't really question it. We were just so excited, I guess, that we found the dam. We were like, that must be the bridge. But we got home and looked at the pictures, like, that doesn't make sense. And then going through some, I guess, construction archives and archives from Corner Brook, we found that they're actually, when they were building the main dam, they built what's called a coffer dam. So a coffer dam is used to kind of hold back water while they're, to drain that part of the lake so that they could build up the main dam. So what we had found was actually this coffer dam that we also at the time didn't know existed. So you can kind of see how well now all those pillars line up. It's each one of these. So that was really cool, but now we have to go back and find the bridge. So we went back out another day and we found it, and this was it. So you can see each of the concrete pillars lines up. You can also, it's still incredible to me now. You can see like the buildup of the bank there, that wooden structure you can see kind of still built up here on this side. So it's incredible that it's still, intact and down there, sunk in history really. And this was another angle of the dam. So you can see even the steps that were kind of on the coffer dam, you can see in the side scan picture. So with just our little Lowrance side scan that Paul had kind of given us as not a throwaway, but as this may or may not work, go out and try it. So it ended up picking up incredible pictures and showed us something that we didn't know existed down there. This was some of the bathymetry that we collected, again, with a single beam. And you can see over here is the coffer dam, and up top is the bridge. So it's incredible how quickly, I guess, we forget that these things happened, because they flooded this lake, and we're kind of like, well, that's all gone. And we were out there for days and months, and we had no idea that this was underneath us the whole time. So this experience of mapping with my friends kind of led to a lot more for me in terms of my schooling and my career. I got to, like was mentioned before, I picked up a lot of technical skills with planning survey lines, and just generally like learning how to look at side scan, learning how to pick up artifacts, and what happens if the boat swerves, because that happens a lot when you're in a little sport fishing boat, right? So just kind of learning how acoustics work and gaining the methodology behind the collection principles, as well as the process of collecting the data. As well, as was mentioned before, we published our findings in the Journal of Ocean Technology, which also helped me build technical writing skills and learning how to communicate our findings with the rest of the world. So this experience eventually led me to my work term, which I did this summer. I ended up going on 2 different ships. The first one was the Kilamoana. And when I interviewed at all these places, all they wanted to know about was my mapping experience. And I was kind of afraid going into getting a work term because a big thing is sea time. Everybody wants to know if you've had sea time yet. And I technically hadn't had any sea time. I had a lot of lake time, but I didn't have any sea time. But this experience just seemed to repel me in a way that, to me, I kind of was just like, oh, I just go out on the lake with my friends. That's not applicable skills, but they really were. And when they're asking me about like working in close quarters, we worked in some very close quarters, and communicating with others and using technology and troubleshooting it. So this was kind of the almost selling point that got me to my work term aboard this ship. I got to meet the ship in Hawaii, which is always a selling point for the ocean mapping program. So I got to meet that ship. I crossed the Pacific and did multi-beam mapping in Alaska, and it was just so amazing to see now going from shallow depths with a single beam to thousands and thousands of meters with a huge multi-beam. But at the same time, a lot of the same principles still applied. It was a lot similar. The lines that I was planning on this ship were like almost identical to the lines that I was planning on the lake. It's the same math that I was doing. Once I finished with this ship, I went to the Nautilus, which is another ship that's owned by the Ocean Exploration Trust, which is a trust that's set up by Bob Ballard. So I got to go on that ship 2 days after I got off my first one, and I did some more mapping. I went back to Hawaii, actually, and you may have heard of the volcanoes that were erupting this past summer. So those volcanoes were creating kind of a new seafloor with all the lava that was coming out. So I got to map the new seafloor that was being created, and actually ended up finding some anomalies in water column data that maybe if I hadn't done my project before, I would have just dismissed. But something that I learned maybe from our first project is that anomalies aren't always just bad data. So I found these artifacts, we call them, in the data that actually ended up being intrusions of lava coming from Hawaii into the seafloor. So it was a pretty cool discovery. We were mapping right alongside some erupting volcanoes. They had a barrier set up. We didn't get that close. We had high resolution cameras, but we were. But yeah, so it was kind of incredible to see how what seemed like such a small project to us was actually, the groundwork that I was setting up for, big projects like this. And they're really similar in a lot of ways, the planning, collection, and then processing. Whether it's a lake or the Pacific Ocean. It's a lot the same. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for this award. And honestly, I feel like you should give an award to all these guys as well, because they were, they brought me along for the ride. They were just as equally a part of the project as I was. So thank you so much.
So I think you see why the selection committee was so enamored. You can see the passion. We didn't have a chance to interview her, but I think every one of the selection committee members voted, and when they talked about all the candidates, when they talked about Michaela, they all said, we just want to see her. Like, who is this person? We just want to see her. And I think, it's fitting that oftentimes when people talk about Julie Payette, and she was just at the Marine Institute a little while ago, as an explorer, and her passion for outer space, and her passion for the STEM discipline, and her passion for STEAM discipline, the ability to bring that passion and bring that interest and bring that education to bear. Michaela is a true explorer, and I feel that I've learned as much here today from Michaela as I've learned from a lot of other formal courses that I've done. So it's really interesting that the student has become the teacher in this case. And if you go back to my beginning comment about educators being able to touch the future and be a part of influencing the future, I think right now Michaela has influenced all of us. And her ability to tie in her passion for ocean mapping and her education, and then to give up her volunteer time, to give up her summer vacation, to spend her own money to go out and do this kind of stuff with her friends. Now, by the way, she did get a check, so if she really truly feels, if she truly feels like what she just said, she needs to celebrate that with you folks. But certainly when you look at the award itself, don't think we could have picked a better winner this year as Michaela. She's our first female recipient in 5 years, which I think is very, very positive. And let me just say that she's in esteemed company. She's our 5th award winner. The other two are in med school, 2 are in grad school, and 1's a Rhodes Scholar. So I think she's certainly in esteemed company. But I just want to end on one note, is that when people get the Order of Canada, apparently the comment in all the Governor General's comments to the masses that are there for the recipients are that you're getting an award for lifetime achievement, but at the same time, it's about saying we're inspiring you to do more, not to do less. This is not the end, and I can't wait to see where Michaela's going to be in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So good luck, and thank you very much.
Thank you.